Lovely to see you. Lovely to be here. And I'm not going to waste any time. I'm going to show you the garden because it's pretty gorgeous at the moment. Let me turn the camera around. Ta-da! We have lilies. It is lily land now. These ones are actually a really crazy one that just grows and grows and grows and makes millions. They fade pretty quick in the sunshine, but that's a new one. They don't last terribly long, but aren't they glorious when they're just going and there's so many of them. And we still have this beautiful electric blue lobelia. And little violas under here. And look, the Lilium regale. You really have to stand back to see how big these are. They're massive. So I'm delighted that they're doing so well because I moved them a year ago and they had a hard time because of how it happened. But and look at this. This is my mother's gladiolus, which I probably doesn't exist anywhere else because it's a cross between this one and that one, if you know what I mean. And it's really special. So I'm looking forward to seeing that come out. And we have this bright spot of the golden yellow calendula, which I really enjoy. It just sets the whole garden off when you look. Look at that. It's just so bright. Wouldn't work so well without those golden calendula. And we have the tail end of the gladiolus here. I really like this one. It's just beautiful that they fall over. But you see, I planted them with the feverfew in front so they'd have something to fall on instead of falling as far as the ground. So that's worked really well. And then we have Queen of the Blues. And see, it's a spiral. I planted a spiral. And I put pink, the single pink lily. And look, we've got a bumblebee. Look at it. It's hard at work. Collecting pollen. Just listen. You can hear the tui in the background. That's very busy in there. And it's got all this white pollen on its legs. I think you can see if you look carefully. So, yeah. Just watching the insects at work. And it's hard not to just fall in love with this. And look, its little backside is more white than yellow. I guess it's because it's a small one. I don't know. But there it goes. It's just busy. So that's the bulb garden that I'm so delighted with because it's 2 years. I completely remade it. And hello, I can see some folks are watching and it's lovely. Facebook hasn't told me who you are, but welcome. It's great to have you here. Let me just show you this view again. I'm terribly pleased with it because it just looks great. And this is the other thing that's happened yesterday. My husband and I mowed the lawn. Yay! You've no idea. It got really scruffy. So we have dahlias that are coming out. And they're only been out a day or so, but you can see how sunburnt they get. Let me see if I've got a fresh one. This one is really fresh and really bright. And so it's got no bleached edges on it, a little bit on that petal. It's just fabulous. And I'm personally excited about this. This is a compost heap that I wrapped up in plastic so it'll decompose really fast. And look at this. It's just all, yay, the grass has been cut. It was very long, and this area still needs attention. But we have white roses. The iceberg is looking lovely. And we've still got some Lotus Lake pelargonium down there. It's a bit thin and scruffy and I need to cut it all back. But this is a lovely corner. And look, the white meadow rue. It's pretty awesome. I love this thing. So that's going. And the neighbour's hydrangea. If you look closely, this is a bit of a different hydrangea. Look at the texture on the petals. Isn't that fabulous? And they're sort of cupped instead of flat, so it's a different variety. I've never seen it before, but I remember her telling me that she had some different ones. And this is something I transplanted in. The neighbours didn't want it anymore, and I said, yes, please, and it's just gone mad. So look at these fabulous leaves. And yeah, bright, bright. It's not coming through on my screen, but these are really bright, I don't know, red. I don't know what the colour is, but it's a fuchsia. And here's the compassion rose. I'm just enjoying having roses. Hi, Mike. It's good to see you. I'm enjoying having roses that aren't miserable, because normally they are. It's been a really good year for them. And this flower is just perfect. So yeah, I'm really pretty delighted with the front garden at the moment. Even this fuchsia is growing well. And the cherry tree. And this is the piece that was long for such a long time. You can still see that it was a garden bed, and we cut it, and it was lumpy, and I took some bits up and some bits down, and there's all the grass that we didn't have any room for, and I've weeded in here, and there's lots more work to do. But this is something else I transplanted, and it's growing. There's several new things in here, and see, it's lovely and green, and I don't know, I love this. And look, this is a hen and chicken fern, and apart from its wonderful foliage, which I enjoy, down here when the fronds get old, they make little babies, and then they fall on the ground, and the babies can grow. So yeah, that is the garden. I'm very delighted that it's been mowed. The lawn has been mowed. It was a big job, and look, the bulb bed's all tidy. I weeded all of that yesterday. And you can see all the lilies are out. I completely skipped over the lilies. Look at this. Fabulous, fabulous colours. Just beautiful. And the very last golden one. You've got to see this because it's beautiful. It's so bright. And all these good things growing in here. So even though it's weedy, it's quite lovely. So now I'm going to turn the camera around and go inside and do my rave. But there's so much to see. I wanted to take the time to do it, because what's the point of having a lovely garden if you don't get to share it? Alright, in fact, I will show you the day because I didn't do that. Here's the day. It's actually quite fine and sunny. I was down on the beach this morning doing a walking meditation, and it's just there's a whole bunch of clouds right over my part of the world, and I'm actually quite delighted because it was really hot on the beach, even quite early in the morning. So here we go. Right, jump on inside. Right over there. Alright, so now I get to do my little tell you what I've been doing this week. Because it has been this week, because I didn't just write today. I actually made a very conscious decision to go to the beach this morning and walk, because by rights I should have just, I got up and did a meditation, and I should have just stayed home and wrote. But I had done a little bit, an hour and a half. I did some yesterday, and I thought to myself, no, I'm going to break the routine. My people, my audience will understand. And I went to the beach because it's the holidays and I can, but I still had about an hour when I got home. So I was thinking, oh my goodness, what can I get done in an hour? But actually I got quite a lot done. So again, here's my little notes. Between yesterday and today, I did a bunch of untangling last week. Well, I read over what I did, and there was still a bit more untangling to do. It's surprising how much work it can be to tell a story succinctly, without looping, without going off down blind alleys, and you lead somebody halfway along a thought, and then you think, but where's that thought go? What's the next step? You've hopped around like a flea in a fit, So I had to get that sorted, but I'm really quite happy with that section now. And then finally, I thought, oh my God, I really do get to start explaining emotional addiction. Because the whole thing that God of Me is about, this nutty project that has kind of gripped me from inside for years now, to take what I have learned about the science of transformation, to use Joe Dispenza's words, and I'm not Joe Dispenza, and I don't need to be, but to take what I've learned and make it available to a different audience, and keep it simple and keep it really as pure as I know how to keep it. And it's weird because I often think to myself, but I don't know nearly as much, So I'm no neuroscientist. I don't know that much about epigenetics and DNA and biochemistry and psychoneuroimmunology and all that stuff. I've read a few books, but I'm no expert. But at the same time, I think to myself that my ignorance is my superpower. Not because it allows me to make grand statements that are complete bullshit, but because there's a lot of information that I simply don't know, but I have really studied the model that I'm living by. That information is really truly tattooed on the insides of my brain. You know, if you gave me a functional MRI while I was explaining this stuff or thinking about it, there would be a lot of hardware in there that represents all the learning that I've done, all the synaptic connections that I've put together, all the memories, all the associations that I've made, and the experiences that I've had, the many experiences that I've had applying it. Because philosophy, understanding, intellectual knowing is one thing, doing it is another, makes it real, makes it mine, makes it visceral. There's a lot in my brain. My brain is changed by my experience. Our brains, everybody's brain is changed by everything they learn and experience. You can't live without having your brain change. That's what it does. If you remember anything, if you learn something or remember something or you have an experience, your brain changes. It's just that many of us, we don't. We just get stuck in the same rut and everything's the same. So, where was I? Explaining how it is that we get addicted to our bad feelings. Because I've been talking about why are bad feelings so easy to feel? And there are reasons, right? I've unpacked two of them. I mean, there's many. But the two that I know about, apart from this emotional addiction, the first one is that they actually really help us survive. Being able to fight or run away from a problem or hide from it is a really good skill if you're living in the jungle. If you need to hunt for food, if you need to defend a family, if you need to defend a safe place where you want to live, if you need to find water, all of those things are really useful in that basic prehistoric scenario where we evolved our survival brain. The survival brain is the midbrain, it's in the middle of your head, and it makes a lot of chemistry. But by the way, it doesn't think. It has no reasoning, analytical, logical, anything going on. It just reacts. Stimulus comes from the outside world. The brain recognizes and interprets the stimuli, and if the stimuli match a pattern that's on record as being something that we need to run from, hide from, or fight, then the chemical brain, the midbrain, the survival brain says, right, let's go do it. It reacts. It doesn't think. And that's a big thing we need to realize. If you're in survival, you're dumb. You don't have a brain to be logical and reasonable and sensible and think with. You're just reacting. And that causes lots of problems in our lives from time to time. If you get upset, you can make bad choices, do dumb things, say things you regret for years afterwards. And it's because you didn't have a brain at the time. So, to be explaining all of this stuff about how we get stuck in survival, what that does to our bodies, because it does make us sick, and how that can affect us. It turns off your immune system. It stops you from thinking. It stops you from digesting as well. If you're in survival, you can't do any of those things. All you can do is run, fight, or hide. So I've been explaining about that. That's important if you're living in a jungle. That's the first reason why it's easy to feel bad. The second reason why it's easy to feel bad is because our brains evolved in a very, very simple world. The threats were known. They were recognized. If there's a saber-toothed tiger, you run away. If you're thirsty, you go and get some water. If you're hungry, you go and hunt some food or feel bad because you can't, and then you try and you look for it. But now we have all these crazy different things going on in our lives. The world is very, very different. And none of what's in our survival brain is particularly useful. If you have a mortgage and you have children and you have school fees to pay and you're sick, or there's a complicated relationship going on, or you're part of a social media group that's spread around the world and they're ganging up on you, or they're demanding things from you, or you feel obligated to people, or whatever. Our lives are so much more complicated, and our survival brain did not evolve to deal with that stuff. It only knows how to run, fight, and hide. So there's another reason to feel bad, is because there's all this stuff which our brain can still recognize as a threat, and when our brain recognizes it as a threat, our survival brain still says, oh, it's a threat, I need to run, fight, or hide. But the problem is, you can be, maybe in the presence of a boss, a work situation. I'll just use a generic example. You can be in a work situation where you absolutely hate and despise the person that sits right next to you. And you really, the caveman brain in you, your prehistoric chemical survival brain, really wants to stand up and punch their lights out, right? That's what that part of you wants to do. I don't like this person. Let me get rid of them. It's really simple. The problem is that you do have a neocortex, a new brain. It's the walnut, the bit on the outside with all the crinkles on it, where you think and you reason and you have society's rules going on and there, a lot of stuff going on. And you know with that brain that if you punch that person's lights out or kill them, which is what your caveman's brain wants to do, you're going to be in deep shit. So you are caught between these two brains. Punch them, don't punch them. Restrain myself, don't restrain myself. Run away because that person scares the heck out of me, or they did something horrible to me a year ago and I haven't forgotten it, and I still just want to run away whenever I see them, or sit here because I have to, because for whatever reason I have to. There is this absolute war that can be going on inside us. And it's not just in your head, because you have all these thoughts here, right? But when you have thoughts, remember, you get chemistry, the chemical brain. Even always when you have a thought, you have chemistry. It doesn't just make chemicals for when you're in survival. It makes chemicals for when you're thinking and processing and creating, when you're in, when your digestion is working, and when your immune system is running, and you can think and you can relate and you can trust and you can love and do all those things. Every time you have a thought, you make a chemical and you have a feeling. So having all of this stuff going on in our lives that our brains, that our survival brain's not cut out to deal with, and we end up in this terrible battle between our two brains, which one do we respond to? And it's all in our body, and stress hormones or not stress hormones, That's another reason why it can be really easy to feel bad. Because there's all this stuff going on. It's 24/7, and some people never unplug. It's like, how can they do it? They can't. It makes them sick. But, this is another reason why it's easy to feel bad, right? And so then, okay, you think, well, it makes sense. There's a lot going on in my world, and yeah, I have this brain that reacts and blah, blah, blah. And okay, so I'm going to stop doing that. Augusta, hi, sweetie. I'm going to stop doing that now. I'm going to stop reacting to my boss or my co-worker that I can't stand or that I'm afraid of. That was me. I'm going to stop feeling stressed about the fact that my body's sick, because I know that stress actually makes my body sicker, and it does. We're all going to get stressed, but if you stay in stress and you can't get out, those stress hormones turn off your immune system. It's just a fact, right? So I know that. Okay, I've got to stop being stressed. Okay, I'm not going to be stressed about this really stressful thing that's going on in my life. Right there, you think, well, that's great. But let's say you make a decision that I'm going to stop doing that, because you understand all the reasons why. You understand inside your head there's this brain which is still responding like it did 5,000 years ago, but 5,000 years ago old challenges not the same as what we're facing now. You understand you've got to stop this from being here, because it screws everything up for you. It's great, but only in the right place. And so you think, okay, I'm not going to criticize that, my partner or my sibling or whatever that I always criticize, for example. How many of us are critical or judgmental or resentful, or, and we don't even notice it. It's just normal that we think these nasty thoughts about ourselves or other people. Okay, so I'm not going to criticize, I'm not going to judge, I'm not going to complain, I'm not going to hate myself, whatever it is. And you start off in the morning with good intentions. And that's cool for a few hours, and then something happens. Whatever it is, that person that always ticks you off says something that really ticks you off. And or the problem comes up, or your body gets really sore, or whatever it is. And kaboom, you're straight back to where you were when you started. And you think, but hang on a minute, I know this is bad for me. But you've flown off the handle and you've lost it, and 4 hours later you're still flown off the handle and lost it, because that's what you normally do. And it's like, okay, I know that I need to stop doing this. Why is it so hard? And the main reason why it's so hard, the biggest reason, it's not the main reason, but it's the biggest reason that I'm aware of why it's so hard to stop thinking and behaving and feeling the way that we are so accustomed to doing and being, is because our bodies literally get chemically addicted to how we think and how we feel and how we behave. Our bodies become conditioned. You know, who was the guy, Pavlov, who conditioned dogs to salivate? You know, he would take a dog. Apparently, he strapped the dog to a table. I'm sure he wasn't being cruel to the dog, but he attached the dog to the table, rang a bell, and gave the dog a meal. Dog eats the meal. Cool. Do it again. Give the dog a meal. Ring the bell. A few days later, ring the bell. No food, but the dog is drooling because it's anticipating that it's gonna get food because it's associated the bell with the food, right? And really, our cells, and this is what I'm starting to unpack. And like just at the end of the time that I had to write today, I was just bulleting out all the steps. You know, you have a thought, you have a feeling, and there's all these steps, and I'm not going to try and rattle them off because I can't, and it wouldn't mean much to you anyway. But between us having a thought and a feeling, and us and our body doing and or feeling something about it, there's a whole cascade of stuff that goes on. But the end result of that, or part of the end result of that, is that the signal that you initiate in your brain with thinking that turns into chemistry that goes into your body, and never mind the fact that there's a vibrational resonant, electromagnetic element to it that's not even going there. That signal gets to your cell and it wakes up a receptor. It knocks on a receptor, the receptor opens up, the chemical docks in, and then you get a signal that goes into your cell, and it goes to the nucleus where the DNA is, and it signals the DNA, and the DNA makes a protein. You think, oh, whoopee, why is that important? Well, the thing is that everything in our body runs on proteins. Every single cell in your body, except for red blood cells because they don't have DNA, makes proteins. And proteins do everything. You know, your muscles are proteins, your bones are proteins, your eyes are proteins, your skin cells make proteins. Everything makes proteins, and proteins like adrenaline it's still a protein. So if you need to make adrenaline to run away from a tiger, that signal from your brain is going to your adrenal glands, and I think other places as well where that chemical can be produced, saying make a bunch of adrenaline right now, and it's really, really fast, right? So you think you have the stimulus, whatever, and boom, it goes into your body. And the thing is, you know, if you run away from the saber-toothed tiger once, that's fine, but if you get stuck in that survival mode, instead of those chemicals happening every now and then, so it's like, oh my goodness, this is really unusual, better pay attention, better totally go crazy and make tons of the stuff. It's like, I'm telling more stories now. I don't know if you know of Aesop's fable. Everybody's heard about the crying wolf. You know, the story about the boy. There was a boy in a village, and there was a wolf or a pack of wolves that, you know, lived somewhere around where they were, and he used to love coming to the village and saying, there's a wolf, there's a wolf, there's a wolf, and he'd make a big fuss, and of course there wasn't. He just did it to make a noise because he liked to disrupt everybody, upset everybody. It's just what he did. And so after a while, people stopped paying attention to him. It's like, oh, he's just crying wolf again. And then one day when there really was a wolf, and he came back, and there's a wolf, there's a wolf, there's a wolf. Nobody paid any attention. So, of course, the wolf got him and he died. Well, the point was, you know, don't tell lies. But the point I'm making is that the villagers stopped paying attention to the message. It was less interesting. It was less novel. It was less important. It was less new. And when we keep bombarding ourselves with stress hormones, our cells are a lot like the villagers. Oh, this again. And our cells can actually change, and they do. Like if you keep sending lots and lots of stress hormones, the cell can respond in one or two ways. It can either say, oh, there's a lot of stress hormones here, I better make more places that stress hormones can dock in. So you actually get more receptors on the cell when the cell divides, because cells die and replace themselves. Then the next lot of cells, the daughter cells, have got more receptors for stress hormones. And what that means is that you need more stress hormones to wake them up next time. Because there's more there, so they need, it's like I've got more receptors here. You better keep feeding me. And the other thing it can do is that, like the villagers, the receptors can go, oh, I'm so sick of this signal. I'm going to stop paying attention. And again, then you need more of the chemistry to get the cell to wake up. And isn't that exactly what happens if somebody takes heroin or crystal meth or whatever it is, ecstasy? That is exactly what happens in the cell. Because those drugs make, for example, what is it? I can't remember which one it is. I think it's meth. Hi, Moonstar! Just makes an enormous release of dopamine, which is the pleasure chemical, right? You just feel amazing when you have your first hit of meth. I wouldn't know, I've never done it. But because there's so much of it, it overwhelms the receptors in the cell. And so the receptors become deadened. They get tired. They stop responding. And so then you have to take more the next time. And more the next time. And more the next time. And that is how addiction works. And what we don't realise is that our negative emotions can work in exactly the same way. And that is the next big chunk that I'm working to unpack. And it's going to be really interesting and I think really empowering for us to understand, I'm going to get clear about this by writing. Whenever you teach something, if you teach something, by the time you've taught it, you understand it better. So I'm going to better understand what I've learned about this. And I'm rereading Joe's book, the first one that's got lots of neuroscience anyway. Dr. Joe Dispenza wrote Evolve Your Brain, which has tons of neuroscience in it, and I love it because it's still really simply explained. So I'm rereading that because it's got all of this information in it. And that's what I'm doing. So that's the journey. And I had a quick chat with my husband today, and I said, well, are we going to have another picture this week? And he said, yes, we will. He's been thinking about body types for the God of Me characters, because we've got to have characters. There are going to be pictures to go with the words, and so there will be a picture, and I'm looking forward to posting that on my Patreon. And my patrons get to see it straight away. If you're not one of my patrons, you will see it just a few days later, because I got to do something special for my patrons. And they are, for whatever reason, they are able to support me in this journey, and I'm so grateful to every single one of them. And if you'd like to check out what's involved, it doesn't cost much. It's US $5 a month, and it means the world of difference to me, because I want to get this information out to the people that are waiting to hear it from me in the way that I say it. And besides, I want your help to decide, this body type or this body type. What do you think? I'm going to be asking my patrons all kinds of questions because I need their participation. So thank you for participating in this live. And thank you, if you're on YouTube, for liking, subscribing, for sharing, and for commenting wherever you are. If you have thoughts, if you have questions, please do drop them in. I love to see them and I love to respond. So I may get another writing session in this week. I hope so. I'll see. I'll keep you posted. Keep an eye out. Otherwise, I'll be back, because next week I'll be back at work. So I'll be back in a week's time. But maybe I'll see you before then. Until then, lots of love. Bye-bye.